Hello. Hi, y'all. Hey, everybody. This is my opportunity to do this, and so I'm doing it now. Um, I'm in a headspace that is fighting negativity. So maybe this will be really good for me because I had planned to share things that have been really good. But I don't know, we had a setback today. Just a challenging, test. So, anyway, but hi, Craig and I are in Dallas. We are in Dallas. So, what I want to do is just kind of, I think, we left on Wednesday, and I want to tell you what happened Wednesday, what happened Thursday, what happened Friday, Saturday, and today is Sunday. Okay, so it's been kind of a big deal, to say the least. So, anyway, here I am in our Airbnb. See how pretty? But there's a whole story behind that. So, yay. So let me back up and tell y'all, it was so massive the night before, the day before, and then the morning of leaving. It was so mind blowing. Like, what are we doing? We're leaving our house for 6 to 8 weeks. What? We're not going to be back here. We're not going to see this home for that long. We're leaving it. Is everything going to be okay? And what are we going to forget? We need to have so many different kinds of things with us. Are we going to pack right? It was just like, But I had a couple of friends come help me get organized with my packing a few days ahead, and it never got intensely stressful. It was crazy. I mean, I don't know how you pack, but we're usually kind of last minute packers, and so it gets really intense, But the morning that we were leaving, it stayed pretty calm. I was just shocked. The main reason was because 2 of our friends from church came and helped us load our car. And I am telling you, the difference that made was so amazing. And I thought, we probably would need 5 people at least. We had all these boxes, and we had our luggage, and we had book bags and everything, but just 2 extra sets of hands, and they were so sweet and dear, and I hadn't gotten to see them in weeks and weeks because of my situation. And so it was so good to see Richard and Claire. And it also helped us feel like we weren't alone. If we had just packed up that morning and then left, it might have felt lonely, but I didn't feel lonely at all. And we also somehow tricked our dogs. I mean, that is just a grace of God to them too. Usually Belle picks up on every little tiny sign that we're leaving in a weird way, something big's happening. And the whole time we were loading up, kind of putting stuff in the last minute things everywhere in boxes in our suitcases and everything, she was fine. It was amazing. It was when we started kind of loading toward the door, she started, what's happening? What? Tell me, talk to me, tell me what's happening. And I just said, this is what we say when we leave, we're gonna go to work and you're gonna get in your crate. So in just a few minutes, you're gonna get in your crate. And she looked at me like, okay, all right. And with Richard and Claire coming, they brought everything out. Craig did some too. But the fact that I stayed in the house kept her calm. I think she was thinking, oh, so these people have something going on. And so then we stayed and we ate lunch. And before we left, the car was all loaded and we ate lunch. And they thought that was, oh, we're just back to normal. And so then when we put them in their crates, it felt normal. And so there was no screaming involved. The one time that we remember leaving them in their crates and we were leaving with our suitcases, I can't remember what happened, like somebody was coming to stay with them, I guess. Belle started yelping and yelping and yelping when we were leaving, and she never does that, and it broke our hearts. But our hearts didn't have to be broken. So then we got on the road, and I felt cheerful. I felt nervous and all that, but hopeful and expectant. And so it was a pretty quick drive, and I think I napped, and Craig said it was like the easiest Dallas. Y'all, I'm gonna try to undo this banner here that came across my screen. But last time I did it, it stopped my video. I'm gonna try to do it more deftly. Let's see. It worked. But now I need to set it where it won't do that anymore. Hang on. No. Oh gosh. Oh yeah. Okay, hang on. Yeah. Okay. Oh, are you still there? Hey. Okay, good. So anyway, we get close to pulling off, on the road to our new home, the Airbnb, and we turn off into the neighborhood, and it's cute. It's like it got lots of different styles of houses, or older, with character, and they're cute. And we're like, do you see the one? Do you see the one? And we loved it on the website, on Airbnb. That's how we found it. And there it was. And all the plants had died. They were all brown. It had looked so beautiful on the Airbnb. These beautiful lush green landscaping and some red flowers in the middle, and a bench with pillows, and there was no bench, and there was no wreath on the door. There had been a wreath. And I was like, oh, it's still, oh yeah, it's cute. Look, there it is. And so I am so affected by my environment, and it's a problem. It's, some people just they're not affected that way. And I am. And it's been a deal since I've been here. But, so we walked into the house, and all the blinds were closed and all the lights were off, and it was hot. And it just kind of gave this wah, wah, wah kind of experience, And the kitchen windows didn't have blinds, so there was some natural light coming in. But I was like, oh wait, the house, it doesn't seem quite the same. It doesn't have that bright, open, happy feeling. Oh no. And I was trying to manage my feelings and not let myself get down and like, oh, this is where we're gonna be. And so for about an hour, I was trying to manage that, and I went around trying to open blinds, and a lot of them were a bit janky, and they didn't work, and they wouldn't open, and I was just like, oh no. And so eventually Craig was able to get them to work. Praise God. But we had to leave the lights off everywhere while the house tried to cool down. And so it was kind of dark. And when it finally cooled down, we turned on all these beautiful lights, and we'd gotten all the blinds open, and I was starting to feel like this really is a nice house. This really does have a nice vibe. And I think it can work. I think I could love it. And so in the meantime, so we have some dear friends. I'll just use names. It makes it easier. I hope it's okay. Bonnie and Steve. And Bonnie is like, she's been the prayer, she's like the prayer link. She is always asking me, what can we be praying for at our church? Steve's an elder in our church, meaning he's a leader, and sort of shepherds people. And anyway, Bonnie told us the day before we left, you and Craig, the house you found, it's on the street where some dear friends of ours used to live, and now they moved to a few blocks away, and so they want to be there for y'all if you need any support. They'd love to meet you. And that was good news to us. We were a little overwhelmed with thinking about what kind of support we might need and what that might look like. But it was good to know. It was good news. But then after we'd been in the house for about an hour, Bonnie texted in a very long, all caps text that said, "I just heard from our friend, and you're in their house. You're in their house." And maybe Bonnie wouldn't have said it that way, but that's me. And she said, "Jamie, I just can't tell you that the people who live there were Steve's childhood friends and our college friends, and we were in each other's weddings, and we've spent so many memories in that house. We love that house." And it just was an absolute flip of everything. It wasn't like we found this Airbnb and it's gonna work. It was the gift of this special sacred home in Dallas. Big old Dallas was picked by God for us, and he rose it up to the surface for us as we're on Airbnb website. And it was like God saying, "I'm your host. I'm your host. Come into my home that I picked for you too. I see you. I see you. I know you. I've gone before you. I have gone well before you. This is one example that I want you to hold on to." And we have just been celebrating that. And just being here, every minute of our day when we're here, we can't help but be reminded that God did that. And we found out, so we had, this is such long stories, y'all. We had been looking on Airbnb for several weeks, but we couldn't do anything about it because we didn't have our dates. We were in limbo, the liminal space. And so, but we just kind of wanted to get a feel for what might be close enough to the hospital. Were there any homes, or was it all apartments? Were there even apartments? And so anyway, we'd been looking, and we never saw this house. And the day that we finally got our dates and we knew we could land a place, that very day, this house showed up on Airbnb. And we were like, Craig found it, and he said, look at this one. What do you think about this one? And we were like, it's close to the hospital. It's a straight shot. We don't even have to get on the interstate, and it's so cute. And it has enough bedrooms for when a sister or a daughter come to help. Let's do it. Let's do it. And so anyway, we did it, and come to find out, a neighbor told us that this house had been rented. It had a 3-month thing. It was just on the market, like as a rental. Just from 2 weeks ago, people moved out of this house, but it had been, there was a renter ready to move in for 3 months, and just at the last minute, they had to back out because they had 3 cats, and like the owner said, no, you can't do it, and they put it back on the market, and that's when we saw it. And so anyway, it filled up so quick after we got our dates on, and they had all the dates, not like we could stay here for a little while and then we'd have to find something else and maybe move back here, or it was the whole shebang. And here we are, and it's our friend's sacred home. So it's just, we are just thrilled, and we feel like it is absolutely our part is to rest in that and believe that God is real and moves and will be moving as we go forward. So, and we have needed that because, so Thursday started with us going in the morning for me to start they're called growth factor shots, and they mobilize the stem cells out of the bone marrow into the blood. Just amazing that they have such a thing. And I got labs drawn to get, some basic labs drawn. And so we met some of the departments we were going to be involved with for outpatient stuff. And I think that was pretty uneventful. And we were kind of just here on our own, but we knew there were people who were wanting to see us here. Well, I didn't know how important that was going to be. So it started with our niece, Maddie. It turns out she lives, I think, less than 2 miles from this house. It's just crazy. Dallas is so big. And so she came by, and having family in our home, it was just so beautiful. And her hug was so tight and rich. And she brought Bluebell ice cream, and she brought fresh flowers, and she sat on our rug, and we talked, and it was just so soothing and therapeutic. And so the next day we saw more people. Anyway, it doesn't really matter which day, but the next day I had a bigger day. I had to go get my shots, and then I had to get a little surgery to get this weird port put in. It's hooked into a vein here, and it has like this circle externally, a circle thing, and then something, and then it has these 3 ponytails. I think, have I mentioned that? It's like 3 ponytails hanging down, and those are where they hook up different IV kind of things too. So I don't have to have an IV in my arm, or they don't come and draw blood from my arm or anything. They do it all it's called the Trifusion. So I got that put in Friday. Well, Friday, so this street that we live on is really fun. It has a lot of young families, and especially the family right across the street. They're kind of active out in their front yard, and they look so fun. And I saw little girls, and I had little girls, and well, we heard a knock at the door Friday, and it was the neighbor, and she came also with fresh flowers and a card, and she came in and we chatted, and she is so neat, such a neat person, and she wants us to know they're there for us if we need anything. And they were friends with the other friends who used to live here, and so there's that connection. And who else came over that day? I don't know, maybe not. Anyway, but by the evening, let me see what else. Well, and we were texting a lot that day with another friend who was in our youth group in Baton Rouge. And, now she has a daughter she has sent to college. And anyway, she lives here, and she reached out to us and is going to bring a meal on Monday. And I'm just so amazed at how God made us such social beings where we need connection, like even nearby. Our connections that we have long distance are absolutely essential, but we also need people on the ground here that we can touch and hug and see them face to face. And it has felt so buoying. It's been amazing. So Friday, of course, so I had my surgery Friday, 5:07. I changed my clothes, and I noticed that there was a good bit of blood in my area, the dressing of my port they had put in. And they said it will have some, but it shouldn't have too much. Well, what does that mean? And so anyway, I called the team. She was still there, and she was like, oh dear, where you would have gone is closed now at 5, and if it continues to show more blood, you're going to have to go to the ER. Oh. We were just like, oh, please, no. We've done the ER, through my chemo in May and June, and it's so exhausting. It's just so exhausting. And so we were cozy at home, in our home here, and we were just going to chill out in the little TV room. There's a cozy little couch, and a TV in this little room off the master bedroom. And we were just bummed, man, but we prayed, and the bleeding never changed. It just stayed the same. So then, let me think, what was it? Oh yeah, so then the next morning, I was gonna go get my shots, but the dressing of my port was coming loose. And they said, oh, don't let the dressing come loose. You'll have to go get it changed. And the lady on the phone the day before had said, well, you'll have to go in on Monday is the soonest anybody can see you. So we thought we may have to go to the ER today, on Saturday, that day. And, but we showed up to get my shots, and it's a department, they don't call them departments, unit called apheresis, and that's where they do it's an outpatient. They give you blood if you need blood, or platelets, or that's where they do the collection of stem cells and stuff like that. So they do a lot of different things. Well, anyway, I walk in and I tell them, what should we do? And I showed them my thing, and they said, we can take care of that totally here right now. You don't have to go to the ER. And Leslie, the nurse, she was so confident and kind and loving and helpful. And Also, my port thing had been put in weird, and it was sticking out straight into my armpit. And the ponytails were like in my armpit. And I knew, like, what? That's gonna, like, for 7 weeks, I'm gonna have this in my armpit. And the ones I had seen always went straight down. And I asked her about that, and she said sometimes they do kind of go the side a little bit. And then she looked at mine and she was like, oh gosh, I'm sorry. Yours is really bad. And I was like, oh, well, this is a little gross, but she was able to turn it and it didn't hurt and it didn't mess with anything. And now mine is straight down. And so Leslie fixed everything and we got to just come home after that. And it was great. Excuse me. So it was quite an up and down. Oh gosh. And so yesterday, one of my dearest friends in the world, we don't remember a day that we didn't know each other because we lived across the street from each other when we were 2 years old. Either we moved onto her street or she moved onto my street. And our moms are still friends. I think that helped us stay friends, you know, as we were growing up. And, but anyway, Carmen came over. Talk about another balm to the soul. You know, just that familiarity. And she just stayed and just laid low with us for a few hours. It was amazing. I don't know exactly how long it was, but it was just delicious. And she gave me these earrings. Let me see. Can you see this delicate little pearls, tri-pearls? And it came with this card that talked about grit, you know, because the pearl gets made in the oyster through grit. And it was just this beautiful long paragraph about she this and she that, and it was like supposed to be about me, and it was about she keeps going because she knows all will be well. And I was just, oh my gosh, thank you, Carmen, such an encouragement. So I'm gonna bring that little card with me and have it at the hospital. So let me think what else. Oh, and then the lady, our friend who used to live here, our Bonnie and Steve's friend, Cindy, she came over too. She came over and met us, and she brought coffee cake and a fresh hydrangea. Y'all, these things are so moving and encouraging and supportive. It's just, I'm amazed at love and what love can do. Craig has been such a constant friend, and we're going through it together, but I'm so glad to have him. And he says he's so glad to have me, which is really helpful. You know, sometimes I can feel like I would just be a burden, but Craig's like, are you kidding me? We're in this together. You support me so much, and that's good too. So one sweet thing about Craig, I'll tell you, you know, it's so hot here, you would not believe. It's not much hotter than we were in Longview, but 108, and there was a squirrel that kept lying out flat in the dirt. I guess is cooler than the air, maybe. Right outside our back door, there's a big tree, and he'd be in the shade, and he's lying in the roots, kind of on the flat dirt. And so Craig brought him a bowl of water. That's sweet. It's just like Jesus. Gives us a cup of cold water. So today was hard. A challenge to hope, which there are going to be so many. Okay, so today the plan today was I go get my last set of growth factor shots and I'd take labs, and then they'd let me know like 4 hours later whether I needed to come back this afternoon to get one more big shot, like a different kind of shot altogether, if I haven't gotten quite enough stem cell mobilization that shows up in the blood work with some number. Well, my number was low. And so they said, don't come back for the shot. We're not going to do that yet. We're going to have to do your growth factor shots again tomorrow. We won't start collecting stem cells, which was supposed to be the plan for tomorrow. They said, just come back right now as quick as you can instead, and we're going to give you another shot for just basically steroids. And then tomorrow we'll do the growth factor shots in the morning, and we'll check your labs again, and we will do the bigger shot in the afternoon like we were planning today if needed. And so it just was a test of, are we going to just freak out and think, what's happening? My body isn't mobilizing my stem cells. They said, this happens sometimes. It's not like I'm the only person, but I said, this happens sometimes, and everybody's body is different, and sometimes people are slow to respond, and then they suddenly spike, and just, don't worry about it. You're in great hands with Dr. Vance. He knows what to do, and that kind of thing. But we couldn't help but be dashed and disappointed, a little scared. Their words helped a lot. Like, I let them know that we were dashed and a little worried, and they told us those things, and it helped. But it also helped thinking about that we're in the house God picked for us in a miraculous way. Okay. God gave us an Ebenezer. He met us. You know what that means? Like, it's like a rock of hope, a rock of remembrance that God met you, and so you have hope. So this house is God saying, don't let circumstances cause you to fear. Stay steady. Look at me. Hope. You are going to face some ups and downs, some twists in the road, and you're not going to have expected that to have to happen in your whole treatment process, but you're going to have to hang on to me. So that's where we are right now this afternoon. I told Craig when we got home from getting the steroid shot and we were making our lunch, I was like, I think we need to imagine and visualize making it to the next step, like sitting in the collection chair. They showed me where I would have that done. And because we're obviously picturing all kind of scary stuff, so we have to actively picture hopeful things, moving on, things going as needed. And so I think we both are trying that too. Lisa this morning had texted me let me find it, a beautiful picture of, they have like a beautiful old church that they go to, and this is one of my sisters. And so in church, sorry Lisa, I told that you texted during church, but excuse me, she sent me a picture of their lovely church, and then she sent me a little snippet of the psalm that they were reading aloud in church, Psalm 138. And later, when Craig and I were watching our live stream church, they did Psalm 138 also. It says, "When I called, you answered me and increased my strength within me. The Lord will make good his purpose for me." Lisa sent me that before any of this happened. And so it's like the things that humans do for us, we must also see God's hand of love behind it. It's a double blessing. It's God reaching out to us. He's moving them to do such things. It's so sweet from the human being. We need that connection and that intimacy, but we also need to remember God is remembering me too. When he had Lisa send that, he knew we were headed into a challenge and a test, and he wanted to encourage us. So yeah, I wonder if there's anything else. Craig and I have found one more app that does, so you know, we have that big fat book that I showed you once. Well, did you hear my back crack? That was great. It's the Divine Hours for the summer. Our friend Vance gave it to us, and we've used it just a ton, because what it is it has the morning office. I hate that they call it office. It's such an awful word, but it's just basically like the morning prayer time. Morning, midday, Vespers, and Compline. And so there are 4 times during the day where if you're like flailing, oh, how do I believe? You can get your big book, and it's like a little liturgy, and so you can do it with someone or you can do it alone, and it takes you through beautiful things. Well, anyway, Compline is the one that you do at bedtime. So we found an app that is called Compline for Anxious Souls, I think. And, you know, none of these things are perfect, but it's pretty great. So some of the nights we've been listening to that as we're heading to bed, and one of them, this was last night, I think I wrote this in, from the Compline. It was from Psalm 4, and it said, "You have put more joy in my heart than they have when their grain and wine abound. In peace I will both lie down and sleep. For you alone, O Lord, make me dwell in safety." Well, I had written in my journal before that, right as I was doing that, I also wrote some gratitude for the day, and it just helped me. But then I turned out the light at 9:30, and I can go to sleep for 3 hours. And it was, "In peace I will both lie down and sleep." And so sometimes God's promises are Well, first of all, is that a promise? Like that's going to happen? No. It's a generalization about resting in God. But, it wasn't fun. And that's just life. Dang it. I just don't want things to be hard. But, the whole happily ever after thing. I want to read that, write it in my journal, and then quietly drift off to sleep in peace. But it didn't go that way, and that's going to be all right. We must endure, guys. We've got to just keep leaning into God and leaning into each other and finding the grace that is there when things are hard. So luckily last night I was able to rest comfortably, and then I got up and had some yummy cereal and I read a little bit, stuff like that. So I don't know, guys. This life is interesting, and we're so grateful to be in Dallas. We are just so grateful to be in this phase of things and clinging. So love you all. Can't think of anything else to say. I hope that I covered things well. Feel free to ask me any questions. We're just amazed that y'all are with us and following us and care to know what's going on. It's just so great, and it means so much to us, Love you all. Bye.